You're listening to The Jay Barker Show on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa.
Thank you and welcome to the show. You have Matt, you have Lars, and you have Noah Haynes, controls there at Tide 100.9 WTBC in Tuscaloosa. Hey, we've got a lot from the Heisman to Florida State backlash continuing to Shohei Ohtani, who's shown me the money. But first, I just want to send all of our thoughts and prayers out to those that were affected by the tornadoes Saturday night. They went like a mile from my house. There were two F1s that came through Homewood, Mountain Brook, Cahaba Heights, Vestavia Hills, all in that area. So if you had damage, many, we're very sorry about that. But fortunately, in our area, there have not been one single injury reported. And I would assume that's because they were tornado aware. Nashville was not nearly as fortunate as 6 people perished in tornadoes up in Tennessee. So we are always weather aware, and Lars always quick to send our prayers and our thoughts out to those that have been affected. But fortunately, and the one that hit Cahaba Heights didn't come very far from your house. I don't know if you were up and aware of it. It came through, I think, about 12:30, something like that.
Oh, yeah.
I was actually out in my car coming back from babysitting the grandkids, and I could see it, on the horizon as I was getting off 65, and I got into my house immediately. What happened with you?
Well, it was raining so hard that I could not see across the street to my neighbor's house. I mean, it was just an absolute deluge. And unfortunately, a building that my group, Sky High Studios, is going to be perhaps moving into, was hit by the tornado and suffered significant damage. And getting this project off the ground, Matt, has just been it's been so challenging. One of our guys got in a car accident. Another one of our guys had his tornado get hit by a house, and you know who I'm talking about, James Spann. Another one of our people in our group tragically, sadly, lost a son. And now this, right when we look like we're going to be able to really get going in Sky High Studios, and I'll talk more about this later on, down the road. But it is going to be a multimedia company unlike any other, not just in Alabama, but the entire South. And it is going to, I believe, absolutely reshape sort of how we think of media in the state of Alabama. And we are so close to finding a home for what we want to do. And then the tornado hit this beautiful, beautiful building. And again, it's not like the building has to be taken down or anything, but it's just gonna kind of slow things up. But hey, nobody was hurt, so that's the main thing. Nobody was hurt, and these tornadoes did not stay on the ground very long. And I believe the one that was in Wildwood area, I think the top winds were about 100 or maybe 80 to 100. And I think the one in Cahaba Heights was about 100 to 120. And, but it was just Saturday was one of those strange days where when you're outside, I've described this to you, is that it just feels tornado-y. Right, but this is December.
You've lived here long enough to know we have a brief period of time in the late fall, early winter where this is, there is a likelihood for them, and you've been in Alabama long enough to where you can feel it in your bones too.
You absolutely can, so. And I think it took the National Weather Service quite a while to determine that there actually was two tornadoes on the ground.
Yeah, they were F1s, which is the smallest of the categories, but nonetheless, 100 mile an hour winds, 100 mile an hour wind.
Yeah.
So we'll.
What were you
keep
doing?
Up to date. I was driving back from Grand Sitting from my daughter and husband were home a little late. They'd been to a Christmas party, so I was driving up 65. I could see the lightning. And I said, "Man, that is brutal." And then I got home, found out exactly how brutal it was.
Was the rain coming down as you were driving?
Oh yeah, it was almost pull over to the side of the road raining that hard.
Yeah, but there was a lot of
so much lightning.
Yeah, and thunder. Yeah, it was just
like you said. Fortunately, no one was injured. On the sports scene, Lars, I guess you're headed to Tampa, right?
Of course.
Big
it's a great
Red.
day to be a Nebraska Cornhusker.
Yes.
Nebraska women's volleyball in the Final Four. And it looks like former Ohio State quarterback Kyle McCord going to become a Husker in the transfer portal. 24/7 is in their very trustworthy outfit for sure. It's where our buddy Mike Rodak works. So they're saying it's 100% to Kyle McCord to Nebraska. And also it looks like one of Ohio State's top receivers may be coming to Nebraska.
Yep.
Also a few players from Florida may be coming to Nebraska. So, hey.
Did I hear Eddie Ann might be coming? The Florida running back?
Yeah.
That's a pretty big pickup.
Yeah. I mean, Matt Rule is he is hitting it hard, he had just become Nebraska's head coach last year at this time, and so Nebraska really wasn't able to go that deep into the portal. It's so exciting. Nebraska women's volleyball is there along with in Tampa with Wisconsin, and I can't remember the two other teams, but Nebraska and Wisconsin really have been the two good teams this year, the two superior teams in all of women's college basketball or women's college volleyball. And I know it's not a topic that is near and dear to a lot of people's hearts, but it's been a special year for Nebraska volleyball. Just, starting with at the beginning of the year when Nebraska filled Memorial Stadium. Over 100,000 people watched Nebraska play in a women's volleyball match. It was the most highly attended women's sporting event in the United States history, and see if they can take care of business. So, yeah, what a crazy game last night. With the Bills and the Chiefs, and a play that could have been the NFL's play of the decade was wiped out by a boneheaded play by Kadarius Toney. But we'll get into that more on the other side with our next guest.
I think Patrick Mahomes, did he go to Florida State?
No, he went to Texas Tech.
That was a joke.
Oh, sorry.
He's whining like a baby, like Florida State fans. They're really starting to get on my nerves, Now they're talking about boycotting the Orange Bowl, and now the big talk is they're going to the Big Ten. By the way, Florida State, and I'll just throw one back at you. You're not going undefeated in the Big Ten. All right. Yes, indeed. Our next guest will be Jeff Spiegel. Then in an hour, we'll have Bruce Cunningham. Long time with the Baltimore Ravens, huge NFL guy, and he can talk about what we saw last night in as Buffalo upset Kansas City. It's a big win. Is Kansas City on a 2-game skid? Uh-oh. All right. I hope y'all know those little comments about Florida State, mostly in jest. We'll be back with more Big Noon Sports.
100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
A very cool afternoon with sunshine and full supply. The high today 51. A freeze late tonight, clear with the low at 29. We stay dry tomorrow and Wednesday. Lots of sunshine both days. Highs between 55 and 58. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 50 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
This is the Big Noon Sports Network.
Lars, Matt, Noah, with you, and joined by pretty much our regular Monday guy. That's Jeff Spiegel from ABC 3340. Jeff, thanks for tuning in and joining us. I hope that you escaped Saturday night with little, if no damage as far as the tornadoes were concerned, because, two F1s coming through literally Birmingham, mainly Homewood, Mountain Brook, Vestavia. But y'all okay? Merry Christmas.
Yeah, well, Merry Christmas to you guys. We've been very fortunate over the years. We live in Pelham, and we had a scare 2 or 3 years ago where one came through and came close to our place, but we've certainly been very fortunate. My daughter actually lives off of Highland Avenue in a kind of a high-rise condo, and so she sent back some video that she took about 12:15, and there was stuff just hammering on her window, and I don't know if it sounded like hail, but she also has like a tree next to her place, and so we thought maybe it might be branches blowing against the window too, but it was really, really loud. So that kind of frightened her a little bit. She's up on the 6th floor. And so, but now that I know there were tornadoes that came through, I'm more scared than I was when I saw the video the first time.
I understand 100%. Well, glad all is well. Jeff, there are a bunch of pretty big stories. I'm going to start in baseball. 2 topics here. Shohei Ohtani is going to make, I did a little bit of math. He will make $5.8 million a month. He will make $192,000 per day. That's based on a 10-year, $700 million. Just react to that for me, Jeff Spiegel.
Well, let me ask you this: Would it make you feel better if I broke it down this way? That he's getting $350 million to be a pitcher and $350 million to be a hitter? Does that make it stomach a little bit better?
Yes, as a matter of fact, it does. He's the value of 2 players. So
I mean,
it really does.
We throw that word generational around way too much. Way too much. but this is a generational player. I mean, this is Babe Ruth like recreated. And except obviously Shohei takes a little bit better care of himself than Babe Ruth did, but he's amazing. So, these are numbers like my dad wouldn't like, or my granddad would detest this contract, but this is a guy who's probably worth every penny.
Jeff, switching sports here to college basketball. On Saturday, the Crimson Tide played in Toronto, Canada, facing number 4 Purdue. And Alabama had a chance to win this thing all the way to the end. Ended up losing the game 92-86, which dropped Alabama to 6-3 on the season. But just a quick little analysis of even just the box score. Mark Sears, lit it up, finished with 35 points, 8 of 16 from 3. But the story of the game was Purdue's big man, Zach Edey, and who happens to be from Toronto. He scored 35, 7 rebounds, and he contributed heavily to Alabama's foul issues with 2 of Alabama's big men fouling out. And afterwards, Nate Oates says, "I've never seen anything like him." And I think there are a lot of people who believe Purdue may very well win the national championship. But just how did you think Alabama acquitted themselves? And were you as impressed with Purdue's big man as I was?
Well, I was incredibly impressed, and I thought Alabama acquitted themselves very well. I mean, they shot the ball really well in the first half. Mark Sears is, the star of this team so far. I know it's only December 10th, but he is just, playing fantastic basketball. And, we talked about this on the Zone last night. Would this game have been different had Charles Bediako not gone to the NBA? Because that's the way, they pitched the game, to Alabama was this is going to be 2 7-footers coming home, going against each other, in just a big battle between 2 7-footers. But, Bediako, decided he was going to go to the NBA. And what Doug said last night, which was really hilarious, was that the only thing that would have been different had Bediako played is that 3 guys would have fouled out, before the game, because Edey is he's a beast. And here's the thing. It doesn't matter if you're 9'4". If you don't have guys on the outside who can knock down shots, you could be 12'4" and it wouldn't make a difference. But he is such a great passer who knows where his guys are on the floor that when they collapse on him, he knocks it out to those shooters. And I think number 3 just roasted Alabama on Saturday. And then here's another thing. You can't foul him because it's not like Hack-a-Shack, because this guy makes free throws. He was 11 of 11 from the line. So he is he's an incredible center and really, just a lot of fun to watch. If you were a big Alabama fan, it drove you crazy how well he was playing. But if you were just didn't have a dog in the fight, then you really appreciated the way he played Saturday.
Indeed. Let's just keep jumping around to really hot topics here on this Monday. Our guest is ABC 3340 sports director Jeff Spiegel. What'd you think about the Heisman? I think towards the very end, it really, really looked like LSU's quarterback was going to win. I don't know if we knew it was going to be that much.
Well, he was so terrific this year. And someone told me after the Alabama game, even though Dallas Turner knocked him out of the game, that was probably his Heisman moment. Because his first half was just off the charts. And then against Florida, he just, he upped the ante, a little bit. And then, once it was determined that, LSU had no shot, to win the division or, to just to compete, for a league title, well, Brian Kelly was just going to, keep him in there and run up the stats, man. And he did. He led the country in so many stats. And it's just he just had one of those unbelievable years, and there was no way he was not going to win. I was most disappointed in the vote of Penix being second and Bo being third. I thought it should have been the other way around, and I get it. And people who know me know that I love Bo Nix and that family. So bias has nothing to do with this here. But I get the fact that Penix got the nod to be second, because in head-to-head matchups, he beat Bo and the Ducks twice. So, I get the fact that he's second, but if you take the overall body of work, I think Bo should have been the runner-up.
Yeah, agreed. And I thought Bo could surprise and perhaps win in a very close vote. And I believe the vote between Penix and the LSU quarterback Daniels was the closest in, about 5-6 years. And I thought the speech was pretty nice. I thought he did a nice job. But man, I've covered a couple of those Heisman ceremonies. Those things just go on forever and ever and ever. And it's, I don't know. Jeff, have you ever gone up there to like Mark Ingram when he won, or Derrick Henry or Bryce Young?
I have not. We've had a couple of guys go up there for those ceremonies, and they say the same thing. It's really, really hard to cover, especially if you're in TV and you're trying to beat a deadline. It's really, really difficult. But at the same time, unforgettable experiences. You're there in the Big Apple, you're in New York, and it's just fantastic atmosphere. But it really is a hard event to cover. From a TV standpoint anyway.
What's really, really tough is on TV and in its length. It used to be in New York. is the NASCAR end of the season banquet.
Oh, God.
Whoa.
They start handing out the West America NASCAR open wheel division at 5 o'clock, and you don't get out of there till 11 o'clock. The only thing that probably makes it a little bit more tolerable is the fact that it was at the Waldorf, so you were getting this wonderful meal in the process. And they weren't shy about bringing wine to the table.
No, I was just going to say that. They never stop serving wine. You start drinking at 5, and at 11 it's done. It's just
try and do a live shot at 10:30 after that. Especially when
but
your
all of
running
it
mate is Greg Screws. You know how that goes, Jeff.
Yeah, but all of a sudden, deadline pressure means nothing.
Yeah,
You know? Yeah.
Tripod? We don't need a tripod.
I love it.
Hey, Jeff, I'd love to get your thoughts about, and this is something that Matt alluded to at the top of the show, about Florida State fans just still absolutely irate about not getting in and into the college football playoffs. And boy, they are really going after Kirk Herbstreit as if it's all Kirk Herbstreit's fault because, Kirk advocated for Alabama to make it in. But just your thoughts again on the on the Florida State fan base.
Well, I mean, my thought about this is you got to move on. I mean, you got to move on. I mean, if nothing you say, nothing you do is going to reverse the process. In fact, if you keep this up, it might affect your ability to get in when it's close in future years, even though there's going to be a 12-team playoff. What if you're Florida State and you're like on the 13 line or the 14 line and you feel like you need to be on the 12 line? Well, all people are going to remember is how much you whined about not getting in, even though you weren't one of the 4 best teams, and you weren't one of the 4 best teams, even though your body of work, was an undefeated record. In your heart, when you put your tape side by side against Alabama and Texas, you weren't one of the 4 best teams. But yet you're continually whining about it weeks and weeks. And this is going to keep going all the way through January 8th. And what Alabama needs to do is win 2 games and win this thing and shut everybody up. The worst thing that can happen for Alabama would be to go to the Rose Bowl and lay an egg. If they do that, you're not going to hear the end of this. It's going to be going on until January 2033. So, you just, you know what I mean?
Great point, Jeff. Yeah, that is a great point.
Matt and Jeff, Bill Hancock, the longtime director of the college football playoffs, he was asked about, his thoughts, and he reminded everyone it's not the 4 most deserving teams. It's the 4 best teams.
Right.
And yes, you got to factor in injuries. I mean, that's right there in writing.
Exactly.
Good point on both parts. Hey, Jeff, you'll be hanging around, right? Can you go through a break here?
Absolutely. Yes.
All right. Jeff Spiegel, ABC 3340. More. Want to ask him more about where Alabama is in position and where we're going from here when we get back on Big Noon Sports, presented by Haley Sansing, Union Home Mortgage.
Laura Lee Thompson is known as the Bama Broker. She's a Tuscaloosa native, an Alabama graduate, and the only realtor in town with Wall Street experience. A skilled negotiator, Laura Lee knows how to buy low and sell high. And the Bama Broker isn't just going to show you houses. No, Laura Lee is going to educate you on the market, guide you to homes that fit your budget, and teach you how to sell your home for its maximum profit. Throughout the entire process, the Bama Broker will equip you with the tools you need to both buy a home and build financial wealth through home ownership. Trust me, the Bama broker, who's as roll tide as houndstooth, will get you across the goal line. That's Laura Lee Thompson, the Bama broker with Advantage Realty Group. You can reach her at 205-790-7229. Again, that's 205-790-7229. And you can also email her at lauralee@thebamabroker.com. That's lauralee@thebamabroker.com.
SEC Sports, like kudzu on the roadside. This is Big Noon Sports.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. We've got as our guest ABC 3340's own Jeff Spiegel. Just way off the beaten path here. Did you see these pictures of Nick Saban showing off his Ferrari? I just did. That's why I decided to bring it up. But Drake Patrick is, of course, we all know who his daddy was, All-American in Alabama. He's showing off the car to Dre, but not driving it because it's not Wednesday.
Right. Right.
Man.
He drives it Wednesday unless it's raining. Yeah. Oh,
Yep.
yeah. If I had a Ferrari, I'd drive it 8 days a week.
Yes, me too. I'd be picking up hitchhikers. No, probably not that. I would be tooling that baby around everywhere. All right, that just crossed over my screen as we were talking here. Did you see Patrick Mahomes last night in Sunday Night Football?
Wow. He lost it. I've never seen him react that way.
Me either.
It was crazy. He thought
was
Von Miller was
justified?
he thought Von Miller was offsides. And I think also there was some carryover from the fact that terrific play where Kelsey, did the old Frank Wycheck tribute throwback, the lateral thing, that was waved off. But, it was clear that his guy was lined up in the neutral zone. But, his reaction was just, wow. I mean, it was over the top. He was just, and he didn't waste any words in the post-game press conference either. So, he's going to get fined. Of course, he makes a lot of money, not Shohei money, but he makes about $450 million. His latest contract, I think, was $450. So he'll be able to afford it.
Yeah, there's a lot of things going on there. Kadarius Toney clearly lined up offsides.
Sure.
And not only that, he's looking right down the line of scrimmage, and his left foot, I believe it's his left foot, is in the neutral zone. And as the referee explained afterwards, it was egregious. Now, there is sort of a gentleman's agreement that a referee will warn a coach about a wide receiver lining up too close to the neutral zone or in the neutral zone. And sometimes if it's just, say, a hand that's in the neutral zone, which actually it extends up, right, in this invisible sort of line, that would be offsides, but they'll typically let it go. And I think this year it's only been called maybe 3 or 4 times all season, but this was pretty egregious. And then the throw to Kelsey's lateral all the way across the field, and you got to remember that Kelsey was a quarterback in high school. It really would have been like one of maybe the play of the decade, the play of the last 10 years, because given the stakes and the moment. But the fact that Patrick Mahomes absolutely just lost it, that reveals something deeper to me. It does. Because this Kansas City team is riddled with imperfection. They've had offensive line issues all year. They don't have an elite wide receiver, and they just have just been a little off. And the week before, Kadarius Toney, he made another sort of boneheaded move where he got called for he wasn't fully set in a play that ended up being very successful for Kansas City. And then you go back to the very first game of the year, Kadarius Toney against the Detroit Lions. He dropped about 23 passes, and look, Kadarius Toney's a great talent. He's a great talent. But to me, there's just something more going on. It wasn't just that play that caused Mahomes to lose his mind. And it's rare to see an elite athlete, especially at the quarterback position, to ever do that. And I got to bring up Joe Burrow. Matt took 37 minutes. Joe Burrow never in a million years would have lost his cool like that. Neither would have Tom Brady. Neither would have Peyton Manning. It was just really odd.
Wouldn't you have said that about Mahomes before last night?
Yeah, absolutely. That's why it's so odd. It's so out of character. I mean, Jeff, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, it just totally, stunned me, later when I saw the reaction. The game was ending as we were taping The Zone. And listen, I want to make this clear. If this gets back to my daughter, who is a huge, huge fan of who, let me just say clearly that this is only a joke, but it's Taylor Swift's fault. I mean, I say that jokingly, but listen, don't you think that is a major distraction potentially?
Well, also the way that Taylor Swift was embracing that dude in the box, I'm like, wait a minute, who's Taylor Swift's boyfriend? Is it Kelsey or is it the guy in the box?
They were rather close. You're right.
I mean,
no, they were very close. Like,
listen, this happens with teams who win a lot. Most of the time, the thing that unravels them, it comes from within. There's something, there's some stuff going on, some stuff maybe we don't even know about. But and the Mahomes thing, it's like a volcano. Maybe it was time for him to erupt because not only because of what happened on the field, but maybe some off the field stuff that maybe we don't even know about. So you're right. I mean, there's something underneath this. There's something behind this that maybe we don't know. There's some frustration there, but the quarterback, man, he's got to be better. He's got to be better. He's got to keep a level head.
Like, give me a break, Kansas City Chiefs. All right, why did you win the Super Bowl last year? It's because of a BS flag that was thrown on a DB.
Oh, here we go.
No, I'm serious. No, I'm serious. I'm no Chiefs apologist. I don't hate the Chiefs. I'm just saying it was a very controversial flag late in the game on the corner. Bradbury, who was guarding Smith-Schuster, and it resulted automatic first down and meant the Chiefs could run out the clock. And it was the first defensive holding call of the game for both teams, and the ref throws it at the most incredible time.
As far as unloading on quarterbacks, Philadelphia is doing the same thing to Hurts. It's unbelievable. Some of their fans are griping and saying they got to replace him. Are you kidding me?
Wow.
That's a relief. That's a come on, man. That's a come on man moment for sure.
Who do you, Jeff? So let's just take in the NFL. Who's your favorite to make it to? Or let's just say, who do you think the two best teams are? Both one in the AFC, one in the NFC right now.
Well, gosh, I think with the NFC, I think you got to go with the 49ers, right? I mean, man, they're just so good. They're so good right now, and I don't know. I mean, maybe it's because I hang around Ryan Brown a lot, but I'm starting to fall in love with the Dolphins a little bit, and I kind of like to see them, get in there when they're on. They are really, 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 really good.
I kind of like the
Agreed.
Ravens.
I like the Ravens too.
Yep. I do
Unfortunately.
too. I mean, that quarterback's pretty good.
Yeah. That's all right. What about your station, your plans? What are y'all going to do in coverage of? Are you going to Pasadena there, Speaks?
You know, I am not going to Pasadena. Johnny Condon and Chris McCulley are going to be going to Pasadena, and so I'll be here, kind of running, minding the store, and making sure everyone here behaves. Jamie Hale is going to be going to Nashville to cover the Music City Bowl.
Right.
So I'll be the guy in the comfortable studio, pitching to people. And should Alabama win, I'm sure they're going to ship me off to Houston for that game. And I'll tell you what I'm rooting for. I'm rooting for an Alabama-Texas rematch. I really am.
Indeed.
I'm rooting hard for that. I think that would be a spectacular championship game. And wow, Alabama would come in with such a big chip on their shoulder in that game. And Texas would come in feeling like, hey, dude, we beat you once. We can beat you again. And we're playing in Houston. So I think it's got the potential to be a great championship game.
Jeff, what are your early thoughts on Alabama, Michigan, and how you think, especially on the defensive side of the ball for Alabama? Michigan is going to try to be physical, and they are going to try to just jam the ball down Alabama's throat, and then do the play action game with their quarterback McCarthy. But it's your thoughts on just that, and then also just the overall matchup.
Well, it kind of reminds me, Michigan kind of reminds me of a New Mexico State team, except at a much, much higher level. I mean, their plan of attack is, they're not going to throw like 70-yard bombs and beat you that way. I mean, they're just going to just plow over you and have these long drives. So if you're Alabama, you don't want to get down by 2 touchdowns to these guys, because coming back against Michigan is going to be like a big uphill climb. So, Alabama's got to, establish control and follow the game plan that Georgia followed. Man, just get ahead and pull away, and match their physicality, which I think Alabama can do. I think if Alabama goes in and plays Alabama football, Michigan goes in and plays Michigan football, I think Alabama wins that thing by 2 touchdowns.
Going to be interesting to see. Hey, tell everybody about some of the things that ABC 3340 is doing, particularly talk about your Sunday night show.
Yeah, absolutely. The Zone on ABC 3340, 1035 on Sunday nights. And appreciate the plug, you guys. And thanks for being so good to me and having me on. And hope you guys have a great day.
Thank you, Jeff Spiegel, who actually is a generational talent.
Yes, that is true.
Oh, you guys are awesome.
All right, thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right, see you later.
All right. Hey, Lars, really interesting news concerning an Alabama commit. We'll share that with you on the other side of the break as you listen to Big Noon Sports. Many of our segments are being brought to you by Laura Lee Thompson, the Bama broker.
Securing the best mortgage possible requires a lender who has knowledge, is trustworthy, and treats customers like family. And no one is better at all of this than the mortgage miracle worker, Haley Sansing. Based right here in Tuscaloosa, Haley Sansing has spent decades working in the mortgage industry. With Haley, it's personal, holding your hand from contract to close. With Haley, it's about one thing, you. Call Haley on her cell, yes, her cell, 205-792-1813. That's 205-792-1813. Let Haley help you.
NLMS number 230376.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
A very cool afternoon with sunshine and full supply. The high today 51. A freeze late tonight, clear with a low at 29. We stay dry tomorrow and Wednesday. Lots of sunshine both days. Highs between 55 and 58. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 51 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
The best sports talk in Alabama. This is Big Noon Sports.
Is Big Noon Sports. It's Matt and Lars, Noah. Next hour, we'll go to Baltimore, Maryland, and talk with our NFL guy. That's Bruce Cunningham, who spent a lot of time in Birmingham, Huntsville, and Mobile before returning to his home state. He's a very popular, now retired television sportscaster. All right, Ryan Williams, we've all heard about him. He originally committed to Alabama. Get this, Lars, October 8th of 2022. You're talking about a guy that's living up to his commitment. He now wants to pull it back, so he will be eligible to be a part of the 2024 class, which means he can join Bond and Company this spring and then in the fall and then play if he's worthy. Of course, that's yet to be determined, but this is a big-time 5-star wide receiver, and I don't know if you had a chance to watch any of the football finals or any of the highlights of this kid, but he's just a big-time player, and I get the feeling he looks – follow me on this, if you will. I get the feeling he's been watching Milroe play, and he says, I want some of that. Let me get in there early.
I agree. I mean, I think you are absolutely spot on here. That he knows that excuse me, my everything just crashed right in front of me. He knows that Jalen Milroe has emerged as a special player, and not only that, he's emerged as someone who it just absolutely excels at throwing the deep ball. And I just think he could be extremely special as early as next year. And now, I mean, you just look at his stats from this last season. He caught 72 balls, which is really rare for a kid in high school in 1 year to catch that many passes. 1,324 yards, and this is what's really eye-popping, 19 touchdowns. 19 touchdowns playing for Saraland High School. And he's going to be the third 5-star for Alabama in this cycle. Yeah. Joining Jalen Mbakwe, I think I'm getting that right, and Julian Sand, the quarterback, who's ranked currently as the number 3 quarterback in the ESPN 300. So now Alabama has. So for the class of 2025, which Williams was initially a part of, Alabama had 2 of the top 3 wide receivers, Williams and Jamie French of Mandarin High School in Florida, and now you get Williams a year early. I think he can contribute right away in some form or fashion. Now, I'm trying to go back and think, and you're going to have to help me out on this. Who was a true freshman wide receiver who came in and made an impact? I know Julio Jones did. Yeah. But I mean, there have been so many great ones, right? I mean,
I think Jerry Jeudy did.
I think Jeudy did. I think
Calvin Ridley, maybe.
I think. Ridley definitely did as a true freshman. Yeah.
Well, Devontae caught a touchdown pass to win a national championship as a freshman, didn't he?
I think he was a freshman.
He was
a
freshman. So I think personally, and you know how many games I've coached and how often I've recruited, I think wide receiver is the easiest position to slide into at a young youthful age.
I didn't realize this, but Jermaine Burton, and correct me if I'm wrong, but a friend of mine told me that he has one more year of eligibility.
I think your friend is right.
Because of the COVID year. Is there any way Burton comes back?
You know what that depends on? 3 years ago, this never would have entered my mind. That might depend heavily on his NIL. I mean, isn't that why Marvin Harrison Jr. is considering not going to the NFL draft?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're making a couple of million, hey, I want to win a national championship. Or in Burton's case, if Alabama were to win this year, I bet the list is very short on players that have won national championships for two different programs.
In your mind, who is the number one receiver at Alabama right now? Is it Isaiah Bond or is it Jermaine Burton?
Well, it's 1A and 1, or 1 and 1A, however you would say it. It kind of is, to a certain extent, play specific, but I think maybe in a lot of ways Bond has become more versatile to be able to catch the short pass and make it long over the middle and the deep ball. Burton's a threat when Jalen Milroe wants to crank it up, though, for sure.
Yeah, and it's just really exciting that Williams decided to reclassify, and he has a chance, I think, to really make an immediate impact. Another true freshman, I think, and this is just from memory, so could be wrong. Didn't Amari Cooper come in and do pretty well as a true freshman? I think wide receiver is one of those positions where if you are sort of physically developed and you're willing to put the time in getting the timing down with your quarterback and really knowing the playbook, you can come in and make an impact. Just like I think you can at corner. And I think those perhaps are the two easiest positions to come in and really make a name for yourself at a very young age.
We talked briefly about it. Kirk Herbstreit is getting absolutely hammered by Florida State fans for saying something that the committee said as well, because he said it. Now he's getting hammered. But this deal about Herbstreit, McAfee, and ESPN Game Day has me confused. We'll talk about it and take your calls at 205-342-9904 as we come back for the second half of Big Noon Sports, brought to you by Haley Sansing, Union Home Mortgage.
WTBC Tuscaloosa and W265CG Tuscaloosa, a Town Square media station. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app. From the Fox Sports Studios in Los Angeles, here's Nick Cope.
News in the NFL. Steelers coach Mike Tomlin has ruled out quarterback Kenny Pickett for their upcoming game as he continues to recover from ankle surgery, putting Mitch Trubisky in line to start again. ESPN reports Chargers quarterback Justin Herbert is not expected to play Thursday night against the Raiders with a fractured index finger on his throwing hand. Coach Brandon Staley said Herbert is seeing a couple of specialists today. NFL media reports the league is reviewing Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid's postgame comments about the call on Kadarius Toney. NFL media also reporting Packers running back Aaron Jones is not expected to play tonight against the Giants because of a knee injury. In baseball, the Dodgers have freed up a 40-man roster spot for Shohei Ohtani by trading reliever Victor Gonzalez and infielder Yorbeat Vivas to the Yankees for shortstop prospect Trey Sweeney. And in college basketball, Arizona maintained the top spot in this week's AP poll. They've got number 3 Purdue this Saturday in Indianapolis.
From T-Town to the Plains, this is Alabama's most in-depth analysis on the SEC. This is Big Noon Sports.
Presented by Haley Sansing, Union Home Mortgage. I don't know if you were dialed into that report from Fox Sports, which is a new addition to the top of the hour. here, and a welcome one. But in order to make room for Shohei Ohtani, the Dodgers needed to free up a roster place on their 40-man roster. Well, guess what? If I heard this correctly, Lars, they didn't free up one, they freed up two, a pitcher and a day-to-day player. Do you get the irony there? Maybe
yeah, I do. I do.
Anyway, what I wanted to talk to you about is Kirk Herbstreit. First of all, Florida State fans are just hanging him. They've put him out of the draft, to use a NASCAR term. But the story that I read over the weekend that I found even more interesting was his assessment of the value of Pat McAfee. Pat McAfee hinted around on College Game Day that all the negativity is starting to give him pause. In other words, maybe he don't want to keep doing this game day stuff. It's a lot of negativity. Herbstreit said, and I quote, "I'm leaving with you. I'm dead serious." Is McAfee that big a deal I don't watch it much, so you, I think, keep up with Pat McAfee more than I do, but is he that big a deal that Kirk Herbstreit would quit if McAfee walked away?
Well, at one, I think they're friends. And two, Pat McAfee has absolutely become a sports media superstar. And that is reflected in the fact that his show is now on ESPN Monday through Friday, and they curse all the time, and it's not even deleted out. I mean, he's got like this kind of like grassroots everyman appeal. And I knew Pat a little bit when he was the punter for the Colts. I remember going out there and going to Indy and doing a long story on Andrew Luck. And when I was talking to different players on the team, they're like, "You got to talk to McAfee. You got to talk to McAfee. That guy can talk." And so I went and spent time with him, and like, wow, this guy really gets it. I mean, he's just, and not only that, I don't know if you remember him as a punter. That guy could he absolutely could just crush the ball, and he didn't mind mixing it up. And then he starts the show and really with no expectation, and now he is one of the highest paid media members in our business. And I really like him. I mean, I know he is definitely not everybody's cup of tea, but he is my cup of tea. I'll put it that way. And I think it's presumptuous to assume that Herbstreit's comments about his future at game day are being directly tied to McAfee's were more than a tactic. But I think he's very serious. I think he is saying, yeah, if he goes, I go. I'm not sure what Herbstreit's contract is or when it's up, but I don't think it's entirely unexpected because I think Herbstreit really loves Pat McAfee's just fearlessness. Pat McAfee doesn't care what people think of what he says.
That's obvious to me.
No, but I'm telling you, like, I really like Pat McAfee because there's too much in sports media too often where people are afraid of offending other people and a certain level of political correctness takes over. Where with Pat, man, he'll just tell you exactly how he feels, and he's got the credibility for it. I mean, there's a reason Aaron Rodgers only talks to one person,
What
Pat
about
McAfee.
Nick Saban? Saban
Nick
uses him for a totally different reason. I think he uses him because he's reaching a much, much younger audience. Not all the time, but he offends me. He just absolutely he curses too much. And that appeals to some people. And I am certainly no Pollyanna, okay? But I try not to throw that stuff around, and he doesn't care. Do you know what? He doesn't care what Matt thinks. He doesn't care if Matt listens, watches, quotes him, or even talks about him on Big Noon Sports.
No, I'm with you.
He doesn't care what I think.
No, I'm with you on that. Like, I don't care for that either. But what they say at the top of the show is, hey, there's going to be language here. You know why? Because we talk like real people talk. And it's almost like, they're just in a bar, just it's like really smart guys in a bar having a discussion. And it's not just like regular dudes. It's former athletes and in a way, I think the liberty they take with the language when they have guests on like Aaron Rodgers, it sort of relaxes them because it's almost like you don't have to be super careful with your diction. You don't have to worry about what you're going to say or offend anyone because everybody kind of knows what you're going to get. But I have that old school philosophy as well, where you shouldn't do that certainly on television or radio and around your kids. But I don't know. I respect. Another thing I really respect about Pat McAfee is the enthusiasm he brings, the energy to every single show.
I think that's exactly what Kirk Herbstreit is pointing out, that he has brought this energy to game day. And I read between the lines, and actually he kind of says it, but he's changed game day. Yeah. And he's gotten Kirk Herbstreit more involved and more excited, and there's more energy in their locker room. And that's why Herbstreit's saying, if you ever decide to leave, I'm going with you because you've changed my experience on game day.
Yeah,
so,
and he said, I forgive me if I was trying to research this as you're talking, but Herbstreit said on McAfee's show, and this is the direct quote, I'm just going to say this right now. If you dare even think of leaving college game day, I'm leaving with you. I'm dead serious.
Yep.
So there you have it.
Well, what would that leave? Reese and Desmond Howard?
I mean, I can't stand Desmond Howard. But because with Desmond Howard, he is so much of a homer to Michigan, it just makes me sick. Like, I'm fine with Desmond Howard talking about Michigan, but do so through an objective lens. And I know everybody has their bias, right? I do when I talk about Nebraska. You do when you talk about Alabama. But I think Kirk Herbstreit does as good a job as anyone when he is talking about Ohio State to be very fair. I mean, the reason he moved to Nashville is because Ohio State fans turned on him because they thought he was being too critical of the Buckeyes, and he didn't want his kids to go through all the crap that they had to deal with at school. So he moved to Nashville, Tennessee.
Incredibly bad. That's just so bad. Because it had to be really bad. That's his alma mater. That's his city. Yeah. And he leaves because of his own fans? Come on. That's a come on, man moment.
Yeah. I agree.
I really like Herbstreit, and he is so versatile. He can do the NFL on a Thursday night, and then he can do game day, and then he does a college game later that evening. He is you know what? He's almost a generational talent. He's really good.
And I'm just impressed with his work ethic. I mean, that guy works his tail off.
You know how much prep it goes into just doing an NFL game one time a week? But you throw in game day and another college game, And he's good at all of them. It's not like he's slighting.
Well, when you were doing college football games on radio, how much prep would go into a single game?
Oh, man. It varied because once you got into the season, you were more comfortable with the lineup and the numbers, and you didn't have to do a lot of repeat, memory to make sure you've got, in the case of college football now, who both number twos are. Yeah. But it was like 2 or 3 hours per hour on air. 10 hours would be a minimum just for a game.
Yeah. And he's
really collectively, you're doing it all the time in your head anyway. So sometimes you're not staring at charts and statistics and the other team, the other coach's records. You're just thinking about it windshield time.
And what amazes me, let's say he does game day in Tuscaloosa, and then later that night he's calling a game in Eugene, Oregon. I mean,
that's a special jet for that.
Of course. It's a special jet, but nonetheless, it's air travel, and it's time change, and it's hard. It's hard.
Hey, let's talk some National Football League. Bruce Cunningham will be our guest as we continue here on the Monday edition of Big Noon Sports.
Jingle those. Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
A very cool afternoon with sunshine and full supply. The high today 51. A freeze late tonight, clear with a low at 29. We stay dry tomorrow and Wednesday. Lots of sunshine both days. Highs between 55 and 58. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 50 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
From T-Town to the Plains, this is Alabama's most in-depth analysis on the SEC. This is Big Noon Sports.
Brought to you in part by Laura Lee Thompson, the Bama broker. Joining us is Bruce Cunningham, who does drop in from time to time, whether we need to talk about the Orioles, the Ravens, all things in the National Football League. Bruce, you doing all right? I know you really have embraced the retirement role, hadn't you?
Oh, I'm telling you, I embrace is a weak word. I enjoy the nothingness of it, and I didn't think I would because I was always so busy. I think in 2013 I had 7 W-2s. That's how much I was working, and this really appeals to me. I'm in bed at 8:30. I'm up at 4. It's great.
Good. Wow. So are you taking in those early bird specials at 4:30 in the afternoon at the local diner?
Maybe. I won't rule that out.
Hey, Bruce, before we get into the topics at hand here, Lars and I were just talking about Pat McAfee and his impact on sports media. You a fan or not?
No, I'm not. I'm more of a traditionalist, Matt. It's the way you and me came up. That's what I like. And it seems that that's disappearing more and more. But I think it's a natural order of things. I don't think it's aimed at people like us. I think it's aimed at younger people. And obviously they respond to him. So there's a place for him. I just couldn't do it. I wouldn't even try to do it, because we weren't trained that way, were we?
Bruce, let's get into Baltimore's win in overtime yesterday against the Rams. This Baltimore team just seems different, and it seems like Lamar Jackson is playing at probably the highest level of his career. Would you agree? And is Mark Andrews done for the year, or are they expecting him back? I should have looked that up before I asked you this question.
Well, John Harbaugh says that there's a chance he'll be back, but I don't think he's coming back. I think he's out for the year. And, you've already signed him long term. And while they do feel like they could make a Super Bowl run, you still have to think about the future. And they like the kid they have Likely out of Coastal Carolina. They like him a lot. And he caught a touchdown yesterday. But as far as this team being different, I know you're a Bengals fan. So here's the one thing I want you to realize about this team. They have added Odell Beckham Jr. and Zay Flowers. And those guys are very, very effective. And it's really made Lamar a lot better. He's not running as much. You know, he can still scramble like nobody ever before. But I mean, they added those two weapons for him, and it was Katie bar the door. This is a very resilient team too. That game yesterday is an absolute seesaw, back and forth, and it was cold and it was raining. And Lamar hit Zay Flowers with like a minute left.
By the way, that may have been one of the best throws of the entire season. Would you agree?
Yeah, he can really zing it. He's not real good on the deep ball. You know, he had 2 long touchdowns yesterday, but he missed a lot of those too. But anything from like 3/4 of the way out up to the line of scrimmage, he's deadly. I mean, I think one of the Ravens receivers told me one time that his ball actually hums. You can actually hear it, you know, rip it through the air, and he can make all the throws, you know. And there's a lot of optimism about this team. Now, what you need to know about the Ravens is this stretch they got coming up. They got Jacksonville next Sunday night. They got the 49ers, and then they got Miami. Three games in a row like that, and then they close out with Pittsburgh. But I'm just saying, that's got to be the toughest 3-game run that anybody's got left in the NFL. So we'll find out about this team, you know.
What did you think about Patrick Mahomes last night's game?
You know, I played the game. You know, I understand the emotions that are involved, and he really hated that call. You know, he's also got to remember that he's Patrick Mahomes, and when he speaks, his words carry weight. I think it was a little bit excessive, and I think he should have known better. He can't claim that he's not media savvy, can he? He's doing commercials for literally every company in America. You know, but you got to learn some self-control. Yeah, maybe you got screwed on that call, and maybe everybody saw it, but, you know, to add your voice to it like that, I don't think is helpful at all. And I guarantee you, Andy Reid had the same talk with him today. Everybody's been dancing to Mahomes' tune the last couple of years. You know, he's been the guy. There's a responsibility that comes with that, you know, and he needs to realize that he can't be saying things like that. I'll bet he never will again. I bet he'll learn the lesson from it, but you know, you got to be aware of who you are and what it is you're saying and what you're suggesting. And it, you know, he should have known better. Without giving you a whole big bowl of word salad, he should have known a lot better. You know,
I don't remember if it was Mahomes or if it was Andy Reid, but one of them said, "Well, he was just a little bit offsides." Well, I'm sorry, offsides is offsides.
That sounds like Andy. Andy's pretty funny, you know. Also, Andy was complaining after the game that the referees didn't warn him that they were lined up that way. Well, that's not the referee's job. You know,
he was also on an inside slot. You know, it's not like you can yell at him through 2 players.
Now turn and ask the referee. You know, if it's too close. It's a shame a game has to turn on a call like that, but you know, I'm sure in Buffalo they're thrilled. You know how big that win was for Buffalo after what they've been going through. So, you know, there's 2 ways to look at that. And then with the Ravens yesterday, the Rams, that's a long flight, you know. How grim do you think that flight back to L.A. was for them yesterday? Losing that game in overtime on a punt return by the backup punt returner. See, this is the thing about the Ravens that just amazes me. Everybody on the roster can kill you one way or the other, you know. Who would have thought, of all people, Kalen Wallace would have been the star of that game yesterday, you know?
Should we talk about the block in the back on that return or not?
Yeah, you know what? There was a clear block in the back. But you know what? I also know if they don't throw the flag, then it didn't happen, right?
You're 100% right. You're 100% right. And just to wrap a bow on this Kansas City thing, for them to be bitching about a flag, I mean, when a flag caused them to win the Super Bowl, give me a break.
I got no response to that. You're absolutely right. I mean, of all teams to be complaining about calls, you know, the Kansas City's gotten a lot of calls in recent years. Believe me. Seems like the Ravens were playing them every year there for about 3 or 4 years. Good Lord, it's hard to beat that team, you know?
Yeah. I want to ask you just kind of I want to stay in the NFL, but ask you just kind of on the other side of Chiefs and Ravens. Who's been the biggest disappointment this year for you?
I expected a lot more from the Giants. You know, I really did. I thought they really had something going up there. I also expected a little bit more from Minnesota, but they had a quarterback go down. I thought those two teams are going to be a lot better than they were, especially the Giants. I thought Washington was going to be better than they were. You look at that NFC East last year, and everybody was competitive, and now it's basically a two-horse race, and it looks like it's a race that Dallas has won. And then the Eagles, they've just gotten their block knocked off 2 weeks in a row. And everybody in the league's kind of looking around with that cartoon question mark above their head, like, what is going on here? I don't know what's going on with the Eagles, but they better get it straightened out, because this is not a good time of year to be faltering, And
is it just a freak thing that there have been so many quarterbacks who have been hurt and are out for the year?
Look, the rules are written to protect them. It's just coincidence. It is a freak thing. I think it's a purely coincidence. I tell you one thing, though, I'm getting a kick out of Joe Flacco.
Where the heck did this come from? I mean,
we're talking about
been out of the league.
And what did he throw? 3 touchdowns yesterday?
Yeah.
You covered like, all of his years in the NFL, didn't you?
No, he looked like Joe Flacco of the contract year when the Ravens won the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he looked like that. And if he's playing that way, the Browns are pretty good. They got a great defense, If Flacco can get hot, there's no reason why they can't make a run here.
You mentioned the Giants.
But, yeah.
They play the Packers tonight. What do you think about Jordan Love? And have the Packers... they're kind of on a little bit of a roll right now, aren't they?
Well, we heard about Jordan Love, didn't we? And the funny thing about that is we also heard about Aaron Rodgers when Brett Favre was still playing there. You remember how, we got to get Rodgers on the field. We got to figure it out. And finally, they just got rid of Favre and let Rodgers play. Could be the same situation, because all the scouts were high on that kid. Everybody thinks he can play, and it looks like it's starting to come together. And why not? I'll tell you this, though, with this doubleheader tonight, or this twin games tonight, I ain't watching it. I want to see Miami,
Yeah.
That's your choice, certainly.
Yeah, Tennessee's not very good, but I want to see Miami. We got them coming up in a couple of weeks, so I want to see. Miami's got to come in here in a couple of weeks, and you don't want to be in Baltimore in December. It's a night game, too. So, you could be looking at temperatures in the 20s. That could be an equalizer.
Miami.
Yeah.
Yeah, more than an equalizer. They can sure push the ball. Bruce, you're retired. Can you stay another segment, please?
I'm not doing anything.
Hey, I got it. We got to talk about Shohei Ohtani and others. You're listening to Big Noon Sports. Our guest is Bruce Cunningham. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes.
For Big Noon Sports coming up.
As a matter of fact, it's coming up right now. You know how your phones read into what you don't normally type into? What does this say about what I text, Bruce? I typed in your name, and it auto-corrected to Bryce.
That happens all the time. It's annoying, isn't it?
Yeah, but I checked mine. I don't send it. A lot of people blame autocorrect. Well, you know what? You autocorrect it. You don't have to hit send. All right, this is one of my pet peeves, but I'm not going into that. I want you to tell me if the price the Dodgers are paying for Shohei Ohtani is worth it. How good is this guy?
No, he's great. We've never seen anybody like him since Babe Ruth. They can hit the long ball and also win 20 games. That's astonishing that he's able to do that. I think the contract, it's outrageous, but every time there's a new baseball contract, it's outrageous. I saw figures yesterday. Now, granted, the Orioles are a young team. They won 101 games last year. Their payroll was $60 million. Ohtani's going to make $77 million this year. It's crazy. At some point, I don't know where it ends. I'll tell you this. I went through a ticket broker to get 2 tickets for the playoffs, the American League playoffs, and it cost me $700. So that's where this money's coming from. It's coming out of the Joe fan's pocket. And I guess the Dodgers are gambling that he's already built up a following with the Angels, and maybe it's money well spent. But, at some point, it just gets to be too much. I remember this is a while back. You guys might remember this too, but the Penguins, Pittsburgh Penguins, owned Mario Lemieux so much money that they just gave him the team. And he was the owner of the Pittsburgh Penguins for a while. He may still be. I don't know. I haven't checked on it, but you're going to get to that point. But then again, baseball, and we discussed this briefly yesterday, man. Baseball's got a problem, and it's an ongoing problem that's gone on since free agency started, and that's the haves versus the have-nots. So what you got is a group of about 4 or 5 teams that can afford to pay whatever the market will bear, and it's ridiculous. It's unfair. And so what it forces teams to do is like the Tampa Bay Rays and like the Orioles have done is just draft well and develop talent. And then when they reach free agency, you got to wave goodbye. And it's sad, but that's just the way it works. And so the Dodgers are one of the haves, and they were able to spend that money for Ohtani. I will see whether it's money well spent or not. They're already pretty good, but now you look at their lineup and it's scary. So we'll see, but that kind of money is outrageous. It really is. But then again, I remember when Pete Rose signed with the Phillies for $3 million, and we were all going around saying that was outrageous. So I don't know where it's going, but it's not going to a good place. I promise you that.
Bruce, these 2 questions I have for you might seem a little far afield, but you've had a long, very distinguished career. So, number one, what's the greatest sporting event you have personally covered? And 2, who's the most compelling athlete, not necessarily the best, but the most compelling athlete that you have personally covered?
All right. The first one, the Super Bowl is pretty much the middle of the dartboard. It's pretty hard to top that. I did get to go to 2 Final Fours with Maryland, and that there's nothing like that. It would probably be a toss-up between those 2, just for the magnitude of the event. Now, and unfortunately, as Matt will tell you, my years in Alabama, there weren't a lot of championship games during that time, so I had to wait to experience it. But it would be those 2. As far as a compelling athlete, that's a really good question because there've been a lot of them. I think Chris Davis, the Oriole first baseman, he had 3 years in a row with 45-plus home runs, and then all of a sudden he just quits hitting. And just to watch him go through that struggle, and to watch him how he conducted himself and how he tried to keep himself alert and upbeat. That was a hard thing to watch, and it ended up not working. He ended up just quitting, going home. The Orioles have to pay him for another, 60 years or something, but he finally just gave up. But just the human side of that, just to watch that inner turmoil eating that guy alive. And every time he went up to the plate, it seemed like he looked worse than the time before. And it was just a hard thing to watch. And on top of it all, he was a really nice guy, The other one I need to mention here, and you won't want to hear this, Mr. Bengals, is Ray Lewis.
I go back to it. I go back to Atlanta
when he gets that second contract, and he finally signs, and everything's going his way. He goes to Atlanta, he rents a limo, loads it up with people, including some folks he doesn't know, and all that happened. And Ray got blood on his suit, panicked, threw it in the garbage, and that's what they got him on for obstruction of justice. He's the solid earth. He's one of the finest people I've ever been around. I would let Ray Lewis raise my kids. I'm serious. And just to watch him have to overcome that at such a young age, that was really compelling as well.
What do you think about the talk from the winter meetings about making the baseball larger?
Yeah, Matt, they want home runs. Home runs make the turnstile spin, and baseball knows it's losing ground. Baseball's tired of getting its butt kicked by the NFL. And now by the NBA also. The NBA is far more popular than Major League Baseball. So they're always going to try to figure out ways to have home runs. The bigger ball will lead to more home runs. You remember Rafael Palmeiro, right?
Sure, Mississippi State guy.
I asked him one time, I said, when you're really hitting, I said, does the ball slow down or does the ball get bigger? And he said the ball gets bigger. And that's what this is going to lead to, I'm afraid. I do like the changes they made last year, though. The pitch clock ended up being a pretty good idea. I didn't mind it at all, and I hated the shift. So I was glad they did away with that. The bigger ball, it's like I said, if you like 11 to 8 games, you're going to love that bigger baseball. But that's what they want.
You know what I think you're going to see an increase of, too?
What?
Foul balls.
Oh, yeah.
There will be more foul balls hit, and that'll be great for the little kids running around the stands. So
yeah.
That's a good thing.
They're the only winners there, that's for sure. But baseball's going to do what baseball feels like it needs to do. The thing about baseball that's not going to change, though, is the slow nature of the game. People are used to the NFL or NBA, where there's a lot of movement and a lot of action and all that. Baseball's just not that way. So it's a little bit tougher sell, especially to younger fans. But they're gonna try to do whatever they can do. I'll tell you one thing: if they're talking about expansion, they're out of their minds. I just don't see. You don't have 30 healthy teams now, and you're going to add a couple. I don't know that is the best idea I've heard either. But problem with baseball is if you take Nashville out of the equation, there's really no place for baseball to go. The Minnesota Twins, when they were trying to get their new stadium built, they approached Charlotte. And I remember this well. Charlotte said to the Twins, I'm not interested. We're not interested. And just kind of slammed the door on them, which really hurt Charlotte. But if you think about it, those are really the only 2 cities without a team that could support one, So we'll see.
Okay, Bruce, since we're hopscotching around sports, let's go to college football.
Yeah.
Did the college football playoff committee get it right? Did Alabama deserve to get in over Florida State?
Yes. You take into consideration, I got such a big kick out of watching Alabama this year because, the season in the beginning, Alabama's not used to struggling like that in recent years. And you talk about a statement. You got the 2-time defending champions in the SEC championship, and they smacked them. And that really impressed me about this Alabama team. Florida State, I understand that they're upset, but here's what you can do, Florida State. Beat Georgia in the Orange Bowl, and then you've made your point, right? I'm so glad they're expanding this thing because as of next year, this won't be a problem. What I would like to ultimately see is have that championship game on the Saturday night before the Super Bowl. That is a wasteland. That is barren. That's a desert that night, and you could put a giant audience together. What they could do is set it up for the night before the Super Bowl and then, back it up and start as whenever you need to start to make it culminate that way. That's my modest proposal. I would love to see it. Having said that, I think whenever you play it, it's going to get a huge audience. But I really like that Saturday night before the Super Bowl. I think that would be awesome. I understand Florida State, but I also covered the ACC, and I covered the SEC, and I know the difference between the two. And perhaps undefeated in the ACC isn't as big a deal as maybe Florida State thinks it is. Just saying.
Always good stuff with you, Bruce. Appreciate it very, very, very much.
I told you.
By the way, you said retire. Don't you still do a Saturday show?
I do. I do Saturdays noon to 3 on WJZ FM. It's 105.7 The Fan here in Baltimore. And I'm going to be calling you because we're going to talk some college football playoffs because you owe me a couple,
Oh, I owe you more than that.
I'll tell you a funny story. A friend of mine, Brent Harris, his daughter is a freshman in Alabama. And they drove down in August and to get her set up and everything. And he heard me on the radio. He said his mind almost snapped
on our show.
Yeah.
The power of that little black box.
I'm telling you.
All right. Well, sure. Anytime. I do owe you a few, and if you ever get down south.
And we're good pals, and I think it comes across that way. So I always enjoy spending the time with you.
Bruce, it's been almost 40 years.
I know it has.
Does that help?
No.
It hurts.
It hurts.
Hey, thank you, Bruce Cunningham.
Yeah,
all right, man.
You, Bruce.
We'll talk soon.
Bruce, please don't hold it against me that I'm a Bengals guy.
No, I don't. You know what? I kind of respect what the Bengals have been doing, with the backup quarterback and all. And now, the joke around here is, the Browns called on Flacco. I bet Kyle Bowler's still in shape. Maybe the Bengals should call him.
Well, among Bengals fans, they're saying that Jake Browning is going to Tom Brady Joe Burrow, which is crazy. But no, but Jake Browning, I just got to tell you this. After his first 3 starts, he has a higher completion percentage and quarterback rating after 3 starts than any quarterback in NFL history.
Yeah, he's playing great, and it's been really a boost for them. The Bengals were pretty good, but it also shows that their system is good. You lose Burrow, and you're still moving the football. You're still moving the chains, and that tells you right there that the right guy is in charge of the Cincinnati Bengals. I'll tell you a funny story. I mentioned Bowler. That was just in jest. There was an old scout with the Ravens. He's getting ready to retire, and this is where Bowler was really struggling. And I pulled him aside, and I said, hey, just between us, I said, what do you think of Kyle Bowler? And he looked at me, and he said, the kid couldn't play dead in a Western.
But wasn't Kyle Bowler, did he go to Cal? Am I wrong on that?
Yeah.
So he's smart. Hey, what? And he had a great arm.
Yeah, he couldn't play. See, he played for Brian Billick, who's very intellectual, and Brian likes to be hands on with his offense and his quarterbacks and all that. And I just think he blew Bowler's mind, to be honest with you. That was hard to watch too. But I don't know. I don't even know what he's doing now. He didn't make all that much money. His dad was a fireman. Maybe he's doing that. I don't know.
Wow.
But
that'd be a good catching
I just
up
love
with
the line, though.
story.
The kid couldn't play dead in a Western.
Yeah, that is good.
Sonny Smith used to say that all the time. He would say he couldn't play dead in a cowboy movie, but I think.
Oh man, yeah, I remember that. And I also remember a Sonny line. Charles Barkley's last year there. They said, "What offense you going to run?" He said, "I'm going to run my contract renewal offense. Get the ball to Charles."
Yep, kept him around.
All right,
too.
guys.
Thanks, Bruce. We'll see you. All right, we'll be back with the final segment of Big Noon Sports here in just a flash.
Thompson is known as the Bama Broker. She's a Tuscaloosa native, an Alabama graduate, and the only realtor in town with Wall Street experience. A skilled negotiator, Laura Lee knows how to buy low and sell high. And the Bama Broker isn't just going to show you houses. No, Laura Lee is going to educate you on the market, guide you to homes that fit your budget, and teach you how to sell your home for its maximum profit. Throughout the entire process, the Bama Broker will equip you with the tools you need to both buy a home and build financial wealth through home ownership. Trust me, the Bama Broker, who's as roll tide as houndstooth, will get you across the goal line. That's Laura Lee Thompson, the Bama Broker with Advantage Realty Group. You can reach her at 205-790-7229. Again, that's 205-790-7229. And you can also email her at lauralee@thebamabroker.com. That's lauralee@thebamabroker.com.
100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
A very cool afternoon with sunshine and full supply. The high today 51. A freeze late tonight, clear with the low at 29. We stay dry tomorrow and Wednesday. Lots of sunshine both days. Highs between 55 and 58. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 52 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
This is the Big Noon Sports Network.
It is Big Noon Sports. Thanks for tuning us in today. Just a couple of notes here from the Heisman. Jalen Milroe finished 6th. How about that? And the winner, Jaden Daniels, had his suit tailored by a guy from Alabaster. How about that? Man, it was a good-looking light blue suit, 3-piece. Man, he was just donning some duds now. Pierce Bespoke is this guy's name, who now has evidently a shop down in the New Orleans area. Now, on to the Associated Press and their first-team All-Americans, Lars.
Yeah, I definitely will not mention the fact that when I said that Jalen Milroe is being thought of as a Heisman Trophy candidate, I was laughed and mocked by a certain co-host of this show, but that's okay.
Laugh and mocked is a little bit deep.
You know, I'm prone to hyperbole. Come on.
Yes. That being said, you don't have to be into hyperbole here. When you read off the All-American.
This is really incredible, because you look at the first team All-Americans, and 7 of the players were either in their 5th or 6th season of eligibility. And that was headlined. And of course, we had the COVID year. We got the transfer thing, just all sorts of crazy stuff. But headlined by Jaden Daniels, first team All-American, quarterback LSU, won the Heisman Trophy, and very much deserving. But he's joined in the backfield by a player that both you and I love, Missouri running back Cody Schrader, sixth year, former D2 player. The other 6-year player on AP first team was Peyton Wilson, NC State linebacker. And then, also on the first team, Kansas State guard Cooper Beebe, edge rusher Latu from UCLA, Jalen Green from James Madison, and Texas defensive tackle Devontae Sweet. But then, and just as a reminder, the college players who were in school during the 2020 pandemic season were granted an extra year of eligibility. And then on top of that, 11 more 5th-year players made the second and third teams. And they were 11. And so including Michael Penix, Notre Dame offensive tackle Joe Alt. But let's here's sort of the headline for Alabama. Alabama led all teams with 3 first-team All-Americans, and I told you over the break who they were. But would you have guessed the 3 that I mentioned to you
going into the season? 2, absolutely. And those would be Kool-Aid and Dallas Turner, and both made it, right?
Yes, they were first-team All-American.
Yeah,
Terrion Arnold. Terrion Arnold,
and he's deserving.
And he may be I think at least on the defensive side of the ball, most improved player, and we know that he has a special relationship with Miss Terry, and he is so vital to everything that Alabama does. But I'll just quickly run through the first team offense. Jaden Daniels, a quarterback. Ollie Gordon, second at running back. Schrader, running back. Tackles Joe Alt at Notre Dame. Alu Fashanu at Penn State. Guards Cooper Beebe at K-State. Zach Zinner, Michigan. We'll learn a lot more about Zach Zinner in the coming weeks as Alabama prepares to play Michigan in the Rose Bowl. Center Jackson Powers from Oregon. Tight end, no surprise, Brock Bowers. Wide receivers, Malik Neighbors from LSU. Marvin Harrison Jr., who we've talked a lot about. Rome Unduze from Washington. All-purpose player Travis Turner from Colorado. Kicker, in a bit of an upset, Graham Nelson from Miami of Ohio. And then on defense, I'm just going to go to basically the defensive linebackers. Peyton Wilson, 6-year player from NC State. Edgerrin Cooper, 4th-year player from Texas A&M. Dallas Turner, 3rd-year player, Alabama. Corners, Cooper DeJean, 3rd-year player, Iowa. Kool-Aid, 3rd year at Alabama. safeties, Malik Starks, second year at Georgia, Xavier Watts, fourth year at Notre Dame. And then they list Terrion Arnold just as a defensive back, right, in his third year. And then we go down, and this was surprising to me, and I think it surprised you as well. Bo Nix, third-team All-American at quarterback, third-team All-American kicker.
Reichert?
Yeah. Why is he not
the leading
first
scorer
team?
in the history of the world?
And exactly.
College football.
Yeah. Why is he not first team?
I think at one point this year, and it's been recent, he might have missed 3 out of 4. But before that, he'd made 20 in a row. So I don't get that either.
Yeah. I don't understand that. But it's just interesting to see how many 5th and 6th year players made this list of being, first team All-American, second team All-American, third team All-American. But what's incredibly fascinating is that Alabama, both of their cornerbacks are first team All-Americans. I can't ever remember that. And you know what? If Alabama ends up playing Texas in the national championship game, watch out. I think everybody. I don't know. I have family in Austin, and they're chirping already. And you know what? My belief is, good luck beating Alabama twice in 1 year.
No kidding. And you're playing a totally different team, by the way. But it could be just a great football game. So, hey, do any of those positions, first team AP, do you get money now? I'm just curious. I know if you're a Heisman winner, you become a member of the Nissan team. So
I'm guessing you get money as a bonus, maybe incentive met in a NIL deal.
Hey, you should be involved in the collective. Hey, we got to go. Thanks, Lars. Tomorrow we'll talk Michigan football with your guy. What's his name?
Chris Schmidt.
Help me.
Chris Schmidt.
Yep. Big Ten radio guy. All right. Y'all have a wonderful day.